Welcome to Walker of Worlds podcast. My name's Rachel, and this is the podcast where we step behind the veil to take a look at some long lost and little known urban legends and spooky stories. Singapore is a place that many wish to visit. With world-class attractions and history dating back tens of thousands of years, the islands that make up the Republic of Singapore lie just 1 degree north of the equator, making them a popular tourist destination for many. Their public transport is second to none. In fact, it's been voted the second best in all of Asia, which is a feat in itself. Their public transport includes buses, light and international rail, rapid mass transit, public and private cars and aircraft. Their buses alone move some 4 million passengers per day on around 5,800 vehicles. The rapid mass transit, a 144-mile-long standard gauge rail system, moves somewhere in the region of 3.4 million passengers per day. These people love their public transport. But why are we talking about buses and trains? We're not that kind of podcast. Singapore is a place heavy with religion, history and superstition, and can come with what we would consider strange traditions on board its public transport. We're going to talk about Bus Route 975. Bus Route 975 covers 92 stops running from Peter Road to Lim Chu Kang Road. The route is circular at the top of Lim Chu Kang Road. The bus turns around and repeats the journey in reverse. The route appears to mainly serve those living out of the centre of the city and passes through a handful of suburban areas before stretching out into the leafy areas surrounding Singapore. But there's something different about those leafy areas, for there are a number of cemeteries on Lim Chu Kang Road. So maybe this bus route serves those who are going to pay their respects to family and ancestors. And this is when it starts to get interesting. A TikTok user who goes by the name of Your Bus Captain has driven the route numerous times and he has stories to tell. This approximately 5-kilometre road sits roughly 28 kilometres northwest of the centre of Singapore. Lim Chu Kang Road cuts away from the main freeways and highways, cutting a lonely trail through sparsely populated fields, woodlands, nature reserves and yes, cemeteries. Bar an army base at the south end of the road, Lim Chu Kang Road appears to be almost desolate, a place where most people probably wouldn't drive, especially at night. However, the route itself is said to be immensely popular, especially for those at the base and those working on nearby farms. However, it seems that the route can have its downtimes, and most of those come in the darker hours. The driver in question focuses on how the route is at night, and here's the receipts to prove it. Desolate, uninhabited, and at times so dark that he often debates turning back. The lower part of the road is well lit, but the further along it that you drive, the sparser the lighting becomes until drivers are relying on little more than their headlights. When asked about driving past the cemeteries, the driver says that it's customary to stop and open the doors at every stop, even if no one is waiting to board or alight the bus. Another tale that he tells is of when the bus is empty. Many drivers, it seems, have had strange experiences while in the area with the bus is empty of passengers. The bell will suddenly ring, and on checking the cameras, the driver will find that the bus is empty. However, they will pull up to the next stop, open the doors, and thank any entity that is stepping off. One story told by a commenter on the videos told about how being a child on the route, the driver spoke to them the entire time, telling them to be calm and quiet at each stop. On the return journey, the driver pulled over to a stop that had no passengers waiting, opened the door, and said something into the night air. The driver had, in that instance, told the spirit waiting at the stop that they had a child on board and would not allow them to board the bus at that particular time. They then thanked the spirit, closed the doors, and continued with the route. But what about other haunted bus routes? Sometimes the ghosts themselves aren't even human. In Cambridge Gardens, which is a part of Ladbroke Grove, eyewitnesses began to spot a phantom double-decker bus. This phantom was mainly encountered by drivers and frightened them very much. They began to compose stories and legends about this ghost. Commuters within the area began to fear that if they ever encountered the ghost bus, they might meet a terrible fate. The very first witness claimed to have seen a car driving along an empty road when suddenly a strange bus appeared. The driver of the car got scared, abruptly swerved his vehicle and hit a pillar. He was killed on impact. After the incident, the bus immediately disappeared. This happened in 1934. Then, the phantom bus started appearing more frequently. Many witnesses were claiming that the bus was driving without a driver, and it was always moving into the oncoming lane at a very high speed. The result was always the same. Any unfortunate driver who encountered the oncoming speeding phantom bus would try and steer clear of it and end up crashing into something. One victim went to the police station and had this tale to tell. I turned around the corner and saw the bus moving. The headlights were shining, both floors were lit, and there was no one inside, neither the driver nor the passengers. I, of course, turned the steering wheel, drove out onto the pavement, and slightly hooked onto the fence, and the bus immediately disappeared. The intersection where the sightings occurred were already known to be dangerous, and with the advent of the high-speed ghost bus it became even more terrifying. The testimonies of all of the witnesses continued to be the same. The driver and passengers were absent and the brand and colour of the bus were the same. They were a red London double-decker bus. Also, the time of the appearance of the ghost bus always coincided. This phantom bus usually appeared at about 1:15 a.m. and would always disappear without a trace. The only evidence that suggested the driverless bus made an appearance were the accidents that continued to occur. The sightings continued until the police decided to take action. They took witness statements but couldn't pin the sightings down on any one single item. The residents claimed that the bus chose its victim deliberately, singling them out before driving towards them. London authorities decided to improve the visibility of the intersection between St Mark's Road and Cambridge Green by widening the road a few metres. In addition, it was decided to repair the road in this mystical place. Soon after that, the bus stopped appearing and the number of deaths decreased. But still, to this day, many drivers try to avoid this haunted road. On November 14, 1995, dark night and possibly a stormy night, a young man boarded the last bus heading to Beijing's Fragrant Hills. Shortly after the man boarded the Route 302 bus, two men tried to wave the bus down. According to a 2013 Global Times article written by Wang Yu, a college student from Hayden District at the time, the bus driver was initially reluctant to pick the men up because they weren't waiting at a bus stop. However, the driver decided to stop after the conductor reminded him that it was the last bus. Once the mysterious roadside men were on board, passengers were surprised to see that they were wearing some pretty badass Qing Dynasty robes from 1644 to 1911, and that there were actually three men, one with long messy hair being supported by the two roadside creepers. As the story goes, the men's faces were much whiter than normal persons and they didn't interact with any of the passengers on the bus. Naturally, commuters were a bit uneasy with the whole situation, but the conductor cooled things over by telling them they were likely actors who had no time to change costumes before leaving work. Slowly the bus began to empty of passengers until only an old lady and the young man remained inside with the mystery men. All was quiet until the old woman abruptly accused the man of stealing her wallet, a claim that resulted in an intense argument. The quarrel was resolved when the old lady insisted the pair get off the bus and go to the nearest police station. Once off the bus, the young man grew enraged with the old woman, realising that he had just got off the last bus and there was no police station in sight. Fortunately for the young man, the elderly woman picked up on something he had missed. The three roadmen did not have legs and by default must have been ghosts. The wind coming in from the window raised their robes and I saw they didn't have feet, the old lady told the man. The story never does divulge how much about what happened to the pair after leaving the bus, but if what happens next is true, then the young man owes his life to the old woman. The following morning, the 302 bus was reported missing, and according to some variations of the story, it would be 3 days until it was found. The bus was eventually recovered in a reservoir miles away from its final destination at Fragrant Hills, and inside it were the three heavily decomposed bodies, the driver, the conductor, and one unidentified body with lengthy, unkempt hair. In some versions of this tale, police found that the gas tank was filled with blood instead of petrol. According to Atrocities, an online paranormal and horror blog, there are a number of mysteries that surround this case, including the fact the bus didn't have enough petrol to get to the reservoir and that the bodies were too heavily decomposed for the relatively short time that they were missing. The blog also claims that the police officers scored the security footage retrieved from cameras around the reservoir and found nothing out of the ordinary. Other variations of this story relate as it being the bus on Route 375 that disappears. The world is scattered with many variations of these tales, including haunted roads, cars and trains. And at some point, we'll probably visit them all. But thank you so much for listening. If you enjoy your books spooky and strange, please do feel free to check out our website at www.roswellpublishing.co.uk. And until next time, stay spooky.